right, we're back with the SilmFilm script discussion, season 3, episode 7, part 5. Yes, number 5. Anyway, so we are still in Act 1. We are working on the final scene of Act 1, I believe. Maybe?
Yes.
Okay. Where are my notes? There they are. Okay, cool. So,
because technically the conversation with Feanor and then the breaking of the sword with Finarfin are 2 separate scenes.
yes, yes.
So this will definitely be the end of Act.
When Finarfin breaks his sword, does he he's doing it very publicly, so does he make a short speech to the Noldor on the shore about denouncing Feanor?
Yes.
Denouncing the kinslaying.
Denouncing the kinslaying. Because he's not ready to publicly, because basically that's essentially staging a coup. If he does
he
that.
denounced Feanor, yeah.
Right.
Well, so he can't denounce Feanor's. Well, he can't denounce his leadership. So you feel he can't even denounce his decision to start a kinslaying?
Well, no,
he can.
He's not pointing out that it was Feanor's fault.
Everybody knows. He's just denouncing the kinslaying itself and everybody involved, and possibly the person who caused it. Yeah, Feanor, that's you. But he doesn't call Feanor out.
But he's also taking personal responsibility for his role in the kinslaying.
Right. He's focusing on the wrong that was done and the role he played in it, and therefore his breaking of the sword is to say, I did something wrong that I repent of right now.
Right.
But the condemnation of Feanor's judgment is implied but not stated.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Which is the difference between treason and not treason.
He's being a little political with this.
Not in Feanor's mind, but
yeah. So and we can show a shot of Feanor standing he's still in the cabin, the doorway of the cabin thing, and he's like you see him in the shadow. It's gonna be Anyway, so what's that?
He show his face distorted with fury.
Yes. Oh, of course, he's outraged.
Yeah, because this is by lamplight, so you can do all kinds of creepy things with someone's face in lamplight.
Ooh.
All right. So, Edlores, what I'm suggesting now. You remember how there was the whole problem of we have no named elves to run a rear guard action? To cover the boarding of the evacuation of Edlores?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Beleg should show up with the weapons.
There's a named elf for us.
Right. And he is going to be the one who, in Act 4, is going to take command of that rear guard action. Him and his closest dudes are going to be the last ones on the ships, but they're barely gonna they're on the end of the pier, shooting orcs that are not orcs, shooting wolves that are coming down the pier, and they board the ship.
So does that mean Beleg is not going to be part of the action in the in the eastern part of the fight with Denethor?
Does he need to? I don't know if he does or not. I don't remember.
He probably would not make it back in time if we have him here now.
That's true.
No one's attacking the marches of Doriath right now because they're closed now with the girdle.
No girdle yet.
The girdle's going to happen towards the end of the season.
After the spiders.
Basically, what Sauron is doing is he's because he knows that Doriath is kind of the center of Elvendom, right? So he's creating this pincer movement around it, so that he can basically just completely envelop it.
But I mean the first battle. The first battle as written, there's no action in Doriath at all.
Right.
It comes down totally on Denethor's head and on Círdan's head.
Yes.
And Thingol was unable to give them enough help, but the guest elves escape into Doriath, into behind the girdle.
Yes. So right now, elves can be escaping into Menegroth. So Menegroth is the safe haven.
Right.
So Thingol has been inviting and rounding up stray elves into Menegroth, so that the orc army that's coming down is not finding very many elves to attack. I'll move to Menegroth, apparently.
If there's action in the east, where's Moblin going to be and where's Celeborn going to be? Are they going to be?
Yeah, they're going to be with Thingol, I believe.
Yeah. Celeborn will definitely be with Thingol. The question is what Mablung is up to, if he's doing anything else.
Is he going to be in the east with it? should
He could be.
involved with the attempted but failed reinforcements sent to Denethor that aren't enough, and then.
Well, no, I think Thingol is there because he describes Thingol like he literally says that Thingol went to succor him and didn't get there in time.
So then, who's fighting on the marches of Doriath? Is that Mobling's role?
He could be. We could leave him there like as kind of like a because Thingol.
So
the marches of
throughout.
Go on.
Throughout this season, we have shown Beleg, Mablung, Celeborn, and Thingol moving quite freely throughout Valyria. Right. So they show up in various places far away from each other from episode to episode because we're just like, time passes and they got there. So we can put them where we need them. But if Beleg is here, then Beleg's probably not in those other places because we've placed him. Mablung can be wherever we want him to be, and same with Celeborn.
Yeah, the reason I suggested having either Mablung or Celeborn fighting in Doriath fighting if there's spiders but there's no girdle yet is that then you have a named character. You have
fighting
when the spiders attack.
Doing fighting. Yeah. No, I agree. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why it's been helpful to have 3 named characters to go around so that we can set them in different directions because it's been a little crazy trying to keep track of the Doriath storyline.
Right.
I mean, in theory, Celeborn also has like a brother and father, but they have a grandfather. But I mean, you can introduce Elmo only to like kill him off.
We're technically not allowed to use Elmo because of his name. Simply because of his name. If we renamed Elmo, we could have him, but because we have an elf named Elmo and there's a red furry Muppet named Elmo, there will be no Elmo in our story.
It's the same reason why we had to do an Easter egg of the Hill of Tuna, because you can't actually say that the elves live on the Hill of Tuna and not have everybody laugh at you.
You could just say Toon. You could have just changed the name back to Toon.
Or during an establishing shot of Tyrion, you could have a shot of a large pile of tuna being delivered from Aqualande.
Yeah, there's a fish market at the base of the Hill of Tuna, but
where there is a hill of tuna.
Yeah.
You could rename the hill. You could rename the hill Core. Honestly,
we could.
Or you could just call it Tyrion. Like, I mean, that was just the easier way to go.
There's enough names to keep track of that when we could simplify by eliminating an extra name we have. So we've 100% referred to Tyrion as Tyrion, even when it was being built. It was, let's build Tyrion.
if you ever needed to refer to the name of the hill, you could call it Core.
Yeah.
When writing the season 2 and season 1 and season 3 scripts, if it's necessary to
right. If we need it, we could do it. We could get around it. But yes, we were informed never use the name Tuna and never use Elmo. I think we should also be really careful about the elves of the Phallus here for similar reasons.
Why?
So the Philathrum is great. Philathrum is no problem at all.
Yes.
But yeah, depending on how you pronounce it, that doesn't really work to call them the elves of the Phallus.
What is the word that is a problem?
It's not
PHALLUS is a problem. FALAS is fine. But the problem is that when you speak,
Phalos.
You can, but it's still going to be
too close. It's way too close.
It's like there's a lot of things you have to be very careful with, like referring to the girdle of Melian and Baron's penetration thereof. Like. Yeah, right. Like, these are things, when you talk about this stuff often enough, all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I have to be so careful with this thing. Like, that's right.
So it's not that we can't say it, it's that we have to be a little careful how we say it. So I'm much more in favor of using Philathrum as a reference to the elves of the Phallus, rather than saying that.
If the host would just pronounce the Elvish correctly.
But no one's going to, so it...
The actors are going to, aren't they?
No, they're not. Not on a TV show. For instance, think of any TV show you've known that's been long running enough that has a weird word in it. Characters consistently say that person's name correctly. For instance, Star Trek had Data, right? And was it always pronounced Data by everybody on that show? No, because there's actors who are only there for a week and have no idea what to say, and so they call them other things like Data, etc. I can come up with other examples, but
see, in Quenya it's better, but again, you can't.
Right, and that's even when the words are like vaguely English words. As soon as you make it Sindarin and Quenya words, it's whatever the director on set that day thinks it's supposed to sound like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but these aren't things that I'm like super concerned about at the moment, though.
Well, no, because that's real life, and we're not obviously.
Right.
Okay, so Elmo, but like you could introduce.
Yes.
I mean, one of the questions that comes up once Celeborn and Nemeloth have this ancestry that goes back to Elway's younger brother is like, why didn't those other dudes end up as the king of Doriath after Thingol died? And
well, clearly they're dead.
They have to either die or follow Celeborn into Eriador.
Well, at the very beginning of season 2, we actually had Elway and some other elves fleeing from the Dark Hunter, and Elway is the only one who gets away. So
the implication is that most of
anybody.
But I don't think Galathiel and Galavone and Celeborn were born in Cuivianen.
They weren't. But
we have Celeborn and Cuivianen because
Celeborn was placed there so that there could be a character who was in the frame of season 2 who was there. That's the only reason.
Okay, so
he doesn't necessarily have to be one of the original elves who woke up.
He's a kid.
A very early who was a very early.
Right. Yeah.
So, but we can give him, a brother or even a father. I mean, we could just say Galathiel, get rid of Elmo as a character and say their father. I can't remember who the heck their father is, but Celeborn's father is Thingol's brother instead of his nephew, and then kill off his father or his brother in one of these battles. To be like, and although then that makes Nemeloth really old.
Yeah, there's a few issues with the ages there, but that's not impossible. Obviously, Arwen's way older than her husband.
Celeborn totally hates the dwarves so much. Why would the dwarves kill his brother?
Well, the thing is, we would then have to have had his brother all along, and we were trying to minimize the number of characters we had to introduce. So, like, we had a speaking role for each of the parts that we needed, and then that was it. Like, so there was no other family beyond who we introduced.
We are going to be introducing many, many characters over the course of this series.
Yeah,
right.
So,
now we can, but at the time we couldn't. So we can't introduce a named character now who's been Celeborn's brother all along, although we can introduce an elf of Doriath who's been there since Cuivianen, and then we just haven't met yet.
Right.
So it's the problem is, as soon as you make it his brother, it's like, how come we didn't know he had a brother? Like, what was his brother doing this whole time?
Well, how come we didn't? He could have been a background character. I mean, why weren't Galadriel's brothers speaking role?
That's true.
Well, Galadriel's brothers were on screen. We just didn't introduce them. So we could do something similar here.
It could do, yeah.
You could have Galathiel and Galavone as background characters, and they're just not as prominent as Celeborn, and then kill off Celeborn's father, by Denethor, because and then kill off, and then have the dwarves kill Galadon or whoever his brother is later, and just they're not very prominent characters until they die horribly.
Okay, I mean that is doable. That's fine.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to introduce a new character and be like, "Here's my long lost brother who's been here the whole time." Like that's like what?
I'm just that have them be.
Well, so to talk about, we can. That's all stuff that we can consider. However, we do actually need to talk about the episode that we're in right now.
Sure.
So what I'm going to suggest here is that Beleg is kind of expecting, when he gets to Eglaris, he's expecting to find it semi-fortified, and it's not even a little bit. And so
what's that?
right. And so the only reason he even knows anything about fortification is because the elves of Doriath have had contact with the dwarves, who do know about fortification because they've had interclan rivalries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they have a history of warfare, so they kind of understand how to manage that. But Beleg shows up, and he's expecting something completely different from what he finds, and Círdan is then able to explain to him that, no, if that's not where I'm going. I don't care about this, right? This place is not what's important. My people are important and our ships are important because that's why we exist. That's what we're here for, essentially. And so he's going to explain to Beleg that the plan is evacuation.
Yeah,
The
plan from the start is evacuation because they're not going to try to defend. Really need to. They just need to get their people on the ship.
Right.
They can't bear to leave behind ships anyway.
Right. Exactly. If they were to try to defend the town, their ships could get destroyed in the process.
Yeah, I mean, all you need is some fire arrows.
Right. Exactly. Which I believe are going to be an important, which I think are going to have an important part of what's going to happen later. But we'll get to that. I have a plan. I have a plan.
For next episode?
No, for
next
this episode, I have a plan.
Oh, okay.
I shall reveal it in due course. Anyway.
Okay.
So.
Fire against the werewolf host? I know how to say that in Sindarin.
so that Círdan and Beleg have a discussion showing the differences of their way of thinking, the difference of the way of thinking of Menegroth versus the difference versus the thinking of the Phallus, the Philomeron.
Yeah.
Right? So we illustrate their different ways of thinking. Okay, cool. So scenes 3 and 4 are the plot points of their respective story arcs. They're the Act 1 plot points, essentially. Okay. We have to bring the breaking of the sword into Finarfin's point of view. Maybe Finarfin thinks in this moment that Fingolfin is going to turn back.
Yeah, he has to take it as you just denounced the kinslaying. You must be done with this.
Right, and I think that he's going to say as much to Finrod.
To Finrod or to Fingolfin?
To Finrod. No, because Fingolfin is in the middle of has just had the speech. He's standing in front of people.
So now we're going to.
I think.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we need to relate this. Sorry, go ahead.
And then we're going to have the next scene with them is going to be Fingolfin and Finarfin and their sons leave the ship and go and have their discussion. And Finarfin is like, so now we're going to turn around and go home. And Fingolfin is like, I don't really know. He's like conflicted. And then at the end of the conversation, well, I mean, because we haven't gotten to the doom yet.
Right. Well, the doom. We have to be very careful because the doom is like the centerpiece of this storyline. So that's like an Act 4 thing. Like one of the issues that we ran into in season 1 is that in episode 6 of season 1 was right after the destruction of the lamps. And so after the destruction of the lamps, the Valar pack up, go over to Valinor, right? So when the hosts talked about it, they said, okay, so Manway's going to decide, they're going to decide to go to Valinor, and then they're going to talk about it. But that's not an episode of television, obviously. So what we did was we found a way to stretch out the point before the decision, so the conversation about it would be short.
Right. We showed how Manway reached that decision point without just saying Manway decides.
Right.
So after the Doom of Mondos, there's going to be a scene of Fingolfin and Finarfin talking.
Yeah.
And
yes, there's going to be right. Right. There's going to be fallout of all of that.
Really need Finarfin and Golfing before Namo shows up.
Yeah,
Well, we should-
right. So we're establishing, we're kind of setting up where everybody's going to be at the end of after the Doom of Mandos before we get there. So there is going to be a scene after the Doom of Mandos where all the fallout happens, and so Finarfin's going to find out who's with him and who's not.
Yeah.
At that point. So, but I just want to make sure that we're keeping the plot on Finarfin, which I realized as I was looking back that we have this major plot point and Finarfin's not involved. So I had to go fix that.
Yeah.
All right. So for the first scene of Act 2, we do need to go back to our Noldor guys, and I think this is where we need to talk to Finarfin's kids.
Yes, Finarfin kind of calls a family meeting.
Right.
He
does that a lot. I've noticed.
He does in this season. That's pretty much all he does in this season is say, "Kids, let's sit down and talk around the fireside chat."
Yeah.
And this is in place of the conversation that he has with them at the end of the Zon and Finarfin like have a.
I'm sorry, what?
They are going to have right. So this conversation that they're having now is going to foreshadow the conversation that they're going to have. It may not even be a full conversation even, but the moment that they're going to have at the end where Finarfin realizes that his kids are going. They're not coming back with him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the thread we talked about him having a full conversation with his children and talking to them and trying to convince them to come with him, and Feanor says no, I have to go on because, and then we.
Right. So he's So when a lot of times when we're talking about this stuff prior to structuring out the episode, we're not always thinking about how and I think I said this in one of the threads about one of the episodes. It's like we have to make sure that we lay the groundwork. We need to earn this stuff, right? So there will be a conversation here about where he's trying to convince his kids to come back with him.
But it's shorter than the conversation I'll have later.
I would say it's probably longer, but it doesn't get resolved.
Right. We will reach the point as a conversation happens and they all do this, doesn't mean we actually got that yet in the episode. So right. This is more Finarfin telling his kids what we should do is turn back with as many Noldor as possible and putting his plan on the table. And right. Then getting the reaction of his kids, which is less than enthusiastic for that plan. Yeah. So there's attempts to convince going on, but no one has convinced anyone or made a final decision yet.
Right.
Yeah. The final decisions have to wait until after the doom is spoken.
Right. Exactly. There has to be fallout at the end.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest challenges of this whole project has been really because, and Marie said this a few weeks ago or last month or so, that the Silmarillion is basically a string of climaxes. Like all of the events that are in the Silmarillion, they're all the climaxes to these episodes.
Because it's told in summary, so it gets to the point. It's
right.
not laying out the process. There's a few exceptions to that. Obviously, there's times where we do see the build up to something, such as the part where Mithras gets captured. We see that Morgoth sends an emissary. The brothers discuss it. They say, "Hey, we think we can trick this guy, him," and it's like, "Good luck with that." And then Mithras goes with his force, and the Balrogs show up with a bigger force, and all his guys die, and Mithras is captive, and then another emissary comes out to the brothers and says, "Are you going to bargain for your brother?" Like, Tolkien lays that one out
in more detail.
Pretty, yeah. He gives the build up of how you get to the decision of this is how Mithras ended up chained to a cliff by his hand. But in a lot of scenes, we don't get all of that. If it's outside of the Turin story or the Brennan Luthien story, we just don't really have the So we have to make it all up. But
Right.
as long as we understand what the characters are doing, it's a lot easier to structure how they get to that point of like, if this is where everybody is, then here's what they would have to do for this to be the decision.
Should this conversation be when like I don't really want to turn back and his father is like, there is a woman back there in Valimar who you agreed, you know, is waiting to marry you and you agreed to marry her. Are you really going to abandon her?
I think it shouldn't be that heavy-handed, but I think there should be an allusion to that.
He can mention.
I mean, because he's gay, but it hasn't been said that they're like actually fiancés.
Right. We saw them together at the feast where Fingolfin did the "You will lead, I will follow" statement.
Yeah.
Finrod and Amarie were hanging out together.
It hasn't been established. I mean,
but yeah, the audience doesn't know that they're betrothed and that she wouldn't come with him because of this leaving Valinor thing. Like the audience did not see their parting conversation yet,
I think,
which we could introduce now as part of Finrod's decision to go forward, or we could save it for the Feast of Reuniting, which is a long ways away.
I think it's worth having his father bring it up now, because if it doesn't come up until his conversation with Galadriel and Doriath, it's going to be all of a sudden out of nowhere. Wait, he had a fiance? We never heard about her. And
right, exactly. Yeah.
Agreed. I think it needs to come out now. I just don't think that Finarfin should say there's a woman waiting for you back in Valinor who agreed to marry you. Like that's a little too much, I guess. But I could be wrong.
He could. Well, he can definitely say, "And what of your betrothed?"
Okay, I'm bad at dialogue.
Yeah. Well, he can say what.
Oh, well, we all do.
Yeah. He can say what of my betrothed? What of your betrothed? You know, he can remind him of her. That can be his parting shot in that scene even, and we get the shot of Finrod looking conflicted, and then we leave them.
She should be name dropped.
Yes.
Or you need to be name dropped. I mean, she's never going to be mentioned again.
Yes, I agree.
We'll probably will show the resurrection of Finrod at some point. I don't know how and when. I think it's going to have to show up in our story just because.
Well, I think
we do
that, I would really like when Finarfin is setting out for the War of Wrath. I want him and Finrod to be talking. I mean,
yeah,
Finrod is one of the very, very few Noldor who has. I mean, him and Glorfindel and maybe like Edrihil and the other 9 guys who went with Finrod are like, they're the only Noldor who were permitted to return from exile. Everyone else is still in Mandos. So like,
well, we don't know.
Who got reincarnated, and they're all like, who knows where they are?
Yeah,
they're not hanging out.
We don't know when they get reincarnated from Mandos. So by the end of the First Age, maybe more of them have been. I mean, who knows? But we definitely know that Finrod was reincarnated within that time period. Therefore, we know we can have him. So why wouldn't we use him? It makes sense. So I think we will show his reunion with Amarie.
To sit down and have a conversation with his son and, say farewell to him, to be like, he's been there, and these guys, what can you tell us about them?
All right. Let's take a break real quick, and we're gonna come back in a second. If you're watching us now, live, definitely hang in there. We'll be right back. If you're watching us in the future, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. Check out the links below so you can get all the information on the SilmFilm project itself, as well as the organization that's running it, Signum University, Mythgard Academy /Institute, and the Tolkien professor himself, Professor Corey Olson. Also, you'll find links to registration for Mythmoot 5 coming up June 21st through the 24th. It's going to be awesome. I think they're holding it at the National Convention Center in Virginia. Looks pretty cool. Anyway, because I've been there and I've seen it and it looks pretty cool. Anyway, we'll be back in a minute.